I was given funding by Begin Together Arts Award by the Bank of Ireland and Business Together, and I decided to create a piece based on my experiences of living through COVID, and also through a diary that I kept of having talked with people and their experiences as well. So I decided to make a 2 metre by 1 metre composite copper and enamel wall hanging. And little did I know when I started out just how long it would take me, because each of these copper pieces is covered in enamel and then fired at 950 degrees. But each piece goes into the kiln 3 or 4 times. So if you multiply 72 pieces by 4 or 5 times, it was a very, very slow process. But I've completed it, and it's ready to be glued onto marine ply, and then it'll be exhibited at the Boyle Arts Festival. Where possible, when I create my artwork, I try to use recycled copper. I would normally get the copper from spent printmaking processes when the edition of a print has been made. The artist no longer needs the copper, and I would take it and clean it. But I also use clean copper, and when I get that, I actually have to clean the surface of it again to take any finger marks off it, and also grease from the copper making process. And I also clean the surface to put a tooth on it, to actually scratch the surface so that the enamel will stick to it in the enamelling process. Once the copper is clean, I'll apply sifted glass powder to the surface. The powder is very, very fine. It's almost like flour, in fact probably as fine as flour. And I'd normally use a sifter of fine mesh size to apply the enamel to the copper surface. Once I've done that, the enamel and the copper are put into the kiln at 950 degrees. And in that heat, and for a minute or two, the powdered glass liquefies and bonds with the copper surface. So based on my experiences and those that I collected in my diary, I wanted to show the human spirit, which is represented by this human form. But I also wanted to show that for many people, COVID wasn't a pleasant experience, obviously. There was a lot of illness and people dying, but also people were locked in their homes. And I wanted to show that the home wasn't always a safe place. And I've reflected that in the work by showing representation of wallpaper, a kind of very old traditional style of wallpaper. And some of the old styles of wallpaper, the manufacturing process used arsenic, which is a poison obviously, but I wanted that just to demonstrate that homes were not always a safe place during COVID for many people. I also used, I sifted enamel through wire to show a grill, or the body being held behind a wire fence, just to show that people were being held in their homes, not being able to meet each other. Further up the piece then, I wanted to show how we looked to nature for ease of our emotional stress, and how people began to do while swimming, or cold water swimming, but also walking out in nature as well. So I've tried to represent swimming by the forms of bubbles and watery forms here at the top, and also the sun, that people were reaching for nature in the hope of emotional ease. I also represented the earth as a very small form on this whole piece, that the earth itself became a very small space, that we were all experiencing the same terrible conditions and restrictions that were imposed by governments on populations to restrict the spread of COVID. So I hope this piece represents in some form not only my own emotional journey, but other people's as well.